Last part of session 63, and here we're going to talk about your favorite word as a student of the Law of One. Harvest. Let the harvest begin. Actually, harvest began a little while ago, and I'll get to that in a little refresher about what is harvest in this episode. When last time we cover part 2 of session 63, we talked about the dual activated bodies and this population of entities that are coming here to planet Earth in the transition to 4 density. So this is all related, of course. This is part of the conversation that Don initiated with Ra. And this gives us beautiful hints about our evolution as a planet, as entities, and as the whole universe, actually, depending on how far and deep you want to get into with this. So the quick refresher on last video was that we talked about the dual activated bodies, and that means that there is a population of entities that are coming to planet Earth now in the transition between 3D and 4D, 3D being 3rd density, 4D being 4th density. And we're in this gray period, if I can call it that. I'm sure somebody who knows about colors can tell me what the right color is between yellow and green, but you get a yellowish green or a greenish yellow type of transition. That's what we're getting into, right? And so these entities are coming graduated from 3rd density of other planets to inhabit this planet in the early stages of 4th density. So if you want to go into a deeper understanding of that, go watch the last video if you haven't. But that's the refresher. That's where we're coming from. And there was there was a line of questions that Don went to that is funny. You'll have to get it if you watch that video. And that's why Don, in the next question, is saying, sorry, I'm so stupid on this, and so on. Because he realized by the questions that Ra answered that he was talking about the same thing. His thoughts were leading him to the same thing they were just talking about. So, all right, so the quick refresher on harvest. What happens? We're in a process of evolution, believe it or not. The whole universe is in a process of evolution. This evolution is simply the realization of oneness. That is the inevitable direction or pull, the spiritual gravity, attraction that we are in evolution. We have been exploring this throughout the raw material ad infinitum, and this stage that we are right now is the last part of 3rd density, meaning that humans will cease to exist as we know us, as we know them. I don't know. So this is the harvest. The harvest is that all those who have achieved a vibration high enough to go to 4th density, then they will graduate. And those who are not yet ready for graduation will repeat 3rd density. Not on this planet, but in another one. So that's the quick refresher. The implications of this are fascinating. They are worth hours and hours of explanations, but that's not the purpose of this video. This video is to expand upon the questions that Don had with Ra and the conversation that developed therefrom to understand a little bit more harvest. So remember, we were coming from that discussion. Funny that Don asked those questions. That again, you have to get the joke if you go watch the other video. I can't repeat the joke here. So in any case, it's not a joke, but it's just funny. So with that refresher, we can go into question, where am I? Here. Question 24 of session 63, the last part of this session. Don says, Sorry I'm so stupid on this, but this particular concept is very difficult for me to understand. Again, referring to his what seemed to be deviated questions or repetitive questions in the last part that we covered. He continues and says, it is something that I'm afraid requires some rather dumb questions on my part to fully understand. I don't think they're dumb questions, but again, that's done. I don't think I'll ever fully understand, but there's something inaudible there. And Don says, even get a grasp of it. Then, as the 4-density sphere is activated, there is a heat energy being generated. I assume this heat energy is generated in 3rd-density sphere only. Is this correct? Ra says, this is quite correct. The experiential distortions of each dimension are discrete. So, what is this energy that we're talking about here? Ra has already mentioned that this energy or heat in excess or friction, I like to call it friction, that we're sensing, feeling, experiencing on planet Earth at this time is due to the incompatibility between the 4-density energies that are inundating, that are soaking our planet and our own vibrations, meaning our own complex of 3rd-density vibrations, which is a lot to talk about there. Just what did you mean there by 3rd-density complex vibrations? Basically, everything that makes us humans generates a vibration, whether that be thoughts, people, actions, political systems, perceptions, everything. Everything that is generated by the human mind, physically and mentally, is a vibration of 3rd density. So all of that is contributing to a friction, a resistance. See, you generate friction when there is a resistance. You generate heat when there's friction. So this resistance is the resistance to love and understanding, to finally be able, oh, look, I'm actually wearing green today. That is appropriate for 4 density. I didn't even think about it. So yes, we're there. And so that's just generating heat. And Don is asking if this is only for 3rd density, and Ra says yes. Right, it's generated in 3rd density sphere only. Ra says yes. Basically, these distortions are discrete to every dimension or density. I have mentioned in the past, and people have asked me this question: what does Ra mean? What is the difference between dimension and densities? I personally can't find a difference. They may be referring to interdimensional subdensity planes, but I would rather just generalize this as a density. I don't see a difference here, especially when Don asks specifically about densities. So dimension and densities are two terms that Ra uses interchangeably, and I think I'm not alone in this. I believe I've spoken to Gary Bean and Austin Bridges about this, and I think even Aaron Apke agrees with this. So little details, nuances. In any case, we go to question 25, where Don says, then at some point in the future, the 4 density sphere will be fully activated. What is the difference between full activation and partial activation for the sphere? Ra says, at this time, the cosmic influxes are conducive to true color green core particles being formed and material of this nature thus being formed. However, there is a mixture of the yellow ray and green ray environment at this time, necessitating the birthing of transitional mind-body-spirit complex types of energy distortions. So let's make a pause here because this is heavy stuff already. First of all, Don is asking if okay, so when 4 density is fully activated, that would be in the future when 3rd density is no longer there. What is the difference between that state of full activation and the partial activation that we're living right now? So what is the difference experientially? What's happening at the full activation and the partial activation right now. So, the complex vocabulary of Ra says that the cosmic, at this time, the partial activation, the cosmic influxes are conducive to true color green core particles being formed. So, I like to use the metaphor of music and the dancer. Energy is the dancer. Music is the density or the vibration that is making energy dance in a particular way. This is how we can describe the whole creation. Okay, we have pure energy in movement, consciousness in activity, consciousness as mind, as movement, as activity. You see, everything is related. The creator becoming holographically projected, meaning just projections of itself in limited time and space. So for this animation to happen, you need to have a music, or for this dance to happen, you have to have music. For the animation, you need to have vibration. Now these vibrations change as obviously the evolution of the specific nexus, in this case planet Earth, is able to dance to that music. And so the particles, I don't like the word particles. I think this word was used as a concession to the materialist formation of Don. Not that he was a materialist die hard, obviously. He was obviously very flexible in terms of his understandings of this, but the core particles being formed and material of this nature thus being formed refers to the configuration of energy being vibrated at a specific speed and rotation. So this simply means that fourth density material is being formed, just like third density material is formed in the human body, because we now have that. And I'll get to that if I remember, because I know I have a reflection about this. Ra continues and says, however, there is a mixture of the yellow ray and green ray environment at this time, necessitating the birthing of transitional mind-body-spirit complex types of energy distortions. So there is a need for humans to have a mixture between third density and fourth density. This is the dual activated bodies that are facilitating the birthing of fourth density, as we will explore. There is a mixture of the yellow ray and green ray environments at this time, necessitating the birthing of transitional mind bodies. So exactly what I just said. Very good. We can continue on with the next paragraph, where Ra says, at full activation of the true color green density of love, the planetary sphere will be solid and inhabitable upon its own, and the birthing that takes place will have been transformed through the process of time, shall we say, to the appropriate type of vehicle to appreciate in full the fourth density planetary environment. At this nexus, the green ray environment exists to a far greater extent in time-space and in space-time. So this is, first, let me explain this. Second, let me go into a little, not a particular rant, but an opinionated clarification. Should I put it like that? First, at full activation, this is the difference now. The difference is that at full activation of the fourth density, the planet will be solid and inhabitable upon its own, meaning that the viability for entities to reside in fourth density will be completely stabilized, established. So we would have a planet that is ready for entities to inhabit in fourth density, full fourth density. And the birthing that takes place will have been transformed through the process of time. This is what's going to lead me to my little rant on opinionated clarification. to the appropriate type of vehicle to appreciate in full 4-density planetary environment. Basically, what I just said, that 4-density bodies will be able to reside in the planetary sphere of 4-density. At this nexus, the green ray environment exists to a far greater extent in time-space than in space-time. Like I said at the beginning, there is an inundation, a permeation of energies of 4-density in time-space. Now remember, your bridge to time-space is your mind. Your mind is the bridge between this 3rd-density space-time and the 3rd-density / 4-density time-space. Your thoughts, your perception of reality, the way you feel about your life, etc. That is all time-space. So, my okay, so yeah, that last sentence where they say that green ray is obviously more in time-space than in space-time right now because it's transitioning, and so it exists more. There is much more availability, of course, in time-space of these energies than it is in space-time. Shocking, right? Our planet does not show yet the solidity of 4-density. Our planet, I mean space-time, our physical world. We're still very, very stuck in 3rd-density. And if I should say it, and I support myself on Ra's words, we're actually looking through 3rd-density towards 2nd-density. So we're just like completely off. But that's being corrected, and we'll get to that as well in this video. It's important to mention this in Harvest, because people get freaked out by Harvest and say, we're doomed. Harvest is here to destroy the planet, and Satan is going to rule over, or is it Lucifer? I forget which imaginary figure we still use in our 3rd-density mentality. Oh gods, this is fascinating. Okay, so my little rant is this. There is a train of thought that I do not subscribe, and it's a very popular one. You can see it. I actually, when I was introduced into metaphysics, law of one, and all of this, the major expounders, is that even a word? Expounders, is that a word? Apologies, I'm expanding my English as I speak. I do this all the time in my Spanish channel. Speaker exponent is the word I'm looking for. The exponents of this theory were the ones that I got into, because I knew I didn't know any better. And so the theory is about this solar flash that is going to happen in the vicinity of 2030, according to prophecies and studies and calculations of galactic spiraling energies and hidden stars, and it gets very obscure and mystic and all bizarre. It's a compelling theory, I have to say. I have to give some credibility to it. Yet it is a story that doesn't match my own intuition. Let me put it this way, so I just don't sound absolutist. I'm just speaking from my heart. I don't believe in the solar flash. I don't believe in a sudden enlightenment process. In one of the things that I thought it was fascinating, and this is where you start to see that those who simply want to believe something, and I get this, I'm not criticizing. Most of you know exactly who I'm talking about, because it's not just one person. There's a lot of people that actually believe in the solar flash. Surprisingly, a lot of people. I do have to say that I sense an amount of fear in it, and that is just a big alarm. The fear of a solar flash. Am I going to be ready for this big event? We had a similar, and funny enough, the same exponent of this theory said that 2012 was going to be something like that. It was going to be that moment. But that got postponed apparently to 2030. Again, I'm not mocking anybody. I just think it's funny how we delude ourselves from our own agendas and our own thinkings just because we have some wishful thinking, which is fine. It's our human way of perceiving reality. I have been a fool myself to believe in these things myself. Like, I create these things, and it's just, in the end, all you have is laughter. Laugh at yourself. It's only when you take yourself too serious that you get into trouble. Always. So in any case, my rant about the solar flash is that these exponents are actually students of the law of one, and somehow they ignored the answer where Ra says that this transition to 4 density will take approximately 100 to 700 years. It's a gradual process. Funny enough, we just got to one of those answers where, again, this was ignored in the theory. This specific part where Ra says that at full activation of the true color green density of love, the planetary sphere will be solid and habitable. Okay, this is the part. And the birthing that takes place, obviously, between 3rd density and 4th density, will have been transformed through the process of time, shall we say, to the appropriate type of vehicle to appreciate in full the 4th density planetary environments. Will be transformed through the process of time. There's even a better question going forward that I'll emphasize to say that I personally believe that the solar flash is just another iteration of the fear-based transition to 4th density. And I've seen people, again, I don't want to mention names, but I've seen their wording into this, in essence, says, get ready for Ascension or you will miss it. That really bothers me. That does bother me. When people give that ultimatum of, you're not ready for Ascension. You are. It's really, again, another. It's another version of repent. Repent because Jesus is coming, and you will be judged. It's the same version, or rather a different version of the same program. You know where these influences are coming from. And if anything, if my word can get out there for anybody that resonates with this, is if you feel fear, if you fear for something in your life, then chances are it's not real. That's an illusion. And so this is, again, a point to be made for the gradual process of transition. And yeah, there's more to say about this, but it kind of bothers me when people use this as a way to say, you're not ready, you need to get ready, and here's the recipe to do it. Yeah, that's, I don't know. But to each their own. I think this is all needed. I just can't see it yet. I don't have the wisdom to see why this is needed, because I specifically am subscribed to giving, I don't know, to speaking my own views. Perhaps that's the lack of wisdom that I have, and I should just remain in silence and look at the world simply develop. That's actually a better sign of wisdom, silence. But we cannot be silent because I'm recording and I'm talking. So let's talk about question 26, where Don says, could you describe the difference that you are speaking of with respect to time-space and space-time? Ra says, for the sake of your understanding, we will use the working definition of inner planes. There is a great deal of subtlety invested in this sound vibration complex, but it, by itself, will perhaps fulfill your present need. So, small clarification from Ra. The difference that they were talking about between time-space and space-time as it relates to the last question, that 4 density is more present in time-space as it's permeating space-time slowly but surely. This is the difference between that permeation between time-space and space-time. Ra says basically it's a little complicated, so let's just say that inner planes are equated to time-space in this case. Okay, and I think there's more to be subtracted out of this, which is, for example, if they're talking about inner planes, and we have, as they rightfully point out, that there is a great deal of subtlety invested in this sound vibration complex, meaning that we have been giving a lot of meanings to the word or the phrase inner planes, right? Is that where the angels and demons reside? Is that where my thoughts reside? Is that where my dad and my mom went when they died? Is that where Hitler is? You know, what's going on there? So there's a lot to be talked about in inner planes. Ra has mentioned that this time-space world is as complex as space-time. So asking specific things about the inner planes may be appropriate. Asking for a definition of time-space or inner planes is like asking somebody who is not aware of space-time, can you describe space-time? Oh boy, that would be such an answer. Or like some people ask me, I just did a live yesterday on Instagram, and people ask me in the questions that I gather, how can I use the law of one to improve my life? And that's just such a big question, you know. We cannot use just one general answer. I mean, if I do it, it's just going to be so limited. I can just say, how can it can improve your life? Because you will face the truth, maybe. That even, you know, it's just, yeah. Some questions are just not easy to answer. It's almost like saying, you know, how can I become an engineer? Or how do I understand engineering? Well, you study. So how does the law of one improve my life? Well, you study it. Or how does Buddhism or Christianity or Stoicism can improve my life? Well, you study it and you live it. Live whatever it is that you study. I think that's the key thing. So, advice out of the way. Questions 27 underway. With Don saying, I will make this statement and you correct me. What we have is, as our planet is spiral by the spiraling action of the entire major galaxy, as the big wheel in the sky turns and our planetary system spirals into the new position, the 4 density vibrations become more and more pronounced. These atomic core vibrations begin to create more and more completely the green. That is, the green core vibrations complete more and more completely to 4 density sphere and the 4 density bodily complexes for inhabitation of that sphere. Is this correct? Wow, that's a big one. This is partially correct, says Ra. To be corrected is the concept of the creation of green ray density bodily complexes. This creation will be gradual and will take place beginning with your 3rd density type of physical vehicle and, through the means of bisexual reproduction, become by evolutionary processes the 4 density body complexes. So, speaking of my previous rant, this is the final nail in the coffin for me of that theory of sudden transition rather than a gradual one. So, let's go to Don's question specifically, where he says basically that as the planet goes into that place of 4 density and it's activating its sphere, 4 density sphere, then those vibrations become more and more pronounced. True, yes, that makes total sense. These atomic core vibrations begin to create more and more completely the green sphere, basically, the green 4-density sphere. And that the bodily complexes for inhabitation of that sphere become more complete. Yep. So evolution. This is also where you see, when I think there's so much to talk about and clarify in this new age language that we use. You will hear a lot of this new age mentality say, prepare yourself for DNA activation. We're receiving solar flares and alignment of planets that are creating DNA activation and so on. DNA activation, that's the buzzword or phrase, right? What does that mean? Do I get out in the sun and get DNA activation because that's how it works? This is an ignorant view, and ignorant, I don't mean stupid, I just mean a limited understanding of how DNA activation seems to work. Again, don't take me as a master or an expert on this, but I can discern this from at least the most sophisticated material that we have in metaphysics, with which any other metaphysic material can measure with. You see, I don't think there's any other metaphysical material that says, we have a higher understanding than the law of one. This is why the law of one is respected and revered by anybody in the metaphysical world. So, if we put any stocks into the law of one, then we need to follow its model and not ignore certain parts that can deviate our own agenda or perception or wishes of how reality should work and must work. This means that we can see that the gradual process. See, I mean, they're even saying it here, gradual. Let me reread it. First of all, I mean, it is true. Let me just finish the DNA part. All of this has a basis of it. They wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't true. There is a DNA activation. But it's just like in our ancestors from second density to third density, they would talk about, we are actually doing a transition in DNA. Imagine this was a conversation that could happen between the primitive second density human form and the actual full human body, mind, body, spirit that actually evolve at that point in the transition 75,000 odd years ago. Imagine this conversation between these primitive life forms, and they were saying, I heard that we're going to have a DNA activation. And that means that we need to eat more apples or more worms or whatever it is that we ate. Sorry, that sounds very ignorant of my part. I don't know what we ate. I don't think anybody knows what we ate. We ate everything. Insects, animals, plants, the whole shebang, the whole nature. We ate all nature. So we need to eat more of this. That is true because DNA evolution requires energy, and so it is true that we need the sun, that we need clean food, that we need clean water, that we need healthier environment, inner environment, and external as well, but we can't control that, unfortunately. So all of this is necessary for DNA activation. It's true. But what is causing the DNA activation is rather something that is beyond our control. It is a process of evolution. Can you control the sun? You can't. That's just a cycle. It goes out, or it seems to come out, and it sets. So in the same way, Ross says the concept of the creation of green ray density bodily complexes is the one to be corrected, because as Don says, yes, there is a vibration that is new and that is creating, of course, a material for 4th density, and in 3rd density, of course, we're working with this as well, because this is what's causing, on the one hand, cancer, and on the other hand, healing. Cancer is rejection of reality. Healing is acceptance of reality, broadly speaking. So, okay. That is true. That is happening. We're playing with this right now. It's our play doll at the current time-space nexus. But this is the beautiful part. This creation, the creation of the body, the creation of the DNA activation and so on, will be gradual and will take place beginning with your third density type of physical vehicle, the human body, and through the means of bisexual reproduction. That means generations and generations to come, which means time, lots of time. They will become, by evolutionary process, the fourth density body complexes. This is so important, man. I just wish more people who are in the metaphysical, please share this video with people who are talking about DNA activation, people who are talking about solar flash, talking about all of this, and require a little bit more nuances as to how this works. Again, it's the beauty of studying the law of one and the curse for us, because we're stuck with limited people who actually study the law of one and can speak this vocabulary. But I think it makes sense to people when you talk about it with people and you bring them to their intuition. I think this makes total sense. There is a process that is going to take time. So getting ready, because you need to save your skin from third density and you need to graduate like these people unfortunately create. This is the environment that is created in this. And I'm not saying everybody, but this is just what's being projected out there. Hopefully they're changing. I don't think so. I think I've heard recently from who knows, whatever. They will do what they have to do. But I believe this is something that needs to get out there and inform people who are thinking of a sudden, explosive type of transition. I doubt it. I don't believe it. So, but I'm still open. I'm still open to the sort of flash happening tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, okay, I was wrong. Let's see where I'm at. Let's repeat. I'm kidding. We're not going to repeat. At least not us. We're saved. Who knows? Done questions in question 28. Then, are these entities of which we spoke, the third density harvestable, who have been transferred, are they the ones who then will, by sexual reproduction, create the fourth density complexes that are necessary? Ra says, the influxes of true color green energy complexes will more and more create the conditions in which the atomic structure of cells of bodily complexes is that of the density of love. The mind-body-spirit complexes inhabiting these physical vehicles will be, and to some extent are, those of whom you spoke. And as harvest is completed, the harvested entities of this planetary influence. So a little bit more of a zoom in to the process of these recent population that is coming here, which, by the way, I mentioned already in past videos, it's large. Between wanderers and graduates from third density of other planets, we are beyond 10% of the whole planet, according to Quo, who is an entity channeled by the same LNL research folks, and they are comprised of Ra, Latui, and Hatan. So Ra's knowledge is there too, if you believe Ra. So what's the zoom in this part? First of all, Don is asking if these entities that they were talking about, the 3D, 4D activated, right? These entities of which we spoke, the third density harvestable, who have been transferred here, they transfer themselves here. Are they the ones who are going to produce this bisexual evolutionary body over time? And Ra says that first of all, the fourth density energies right, will more and more create the conditions for the atomic structure of cells to be more in alignment with 4 density, right? The density of love. The mind-body-spirit complexes inhabiting these physical vehicles will be those, to some extent, will be those, the 3D, 4D, dual activated bodies. And as harvest is completed, the harvested entities of this planetary influence. So, you see that there's a hidden gem in here for us who like to study the harvest. Caveat, this is my interpretation. See if it resonates. If it doesn't, then try to make up something or just simply ignore it. But check this out. Ross says, first, yes, those dual activated bodies will be part of that. But also, as the harvest is completed, the harvested entities of this planetary influence. What does that mean? Well, who are the harvested entities of this planetary influence? Those who are able to graduate to 4 density. Who are these entities? These are the entities who have incarnated here in the recent past. I'm talking about last 40, 50 years, who have seniority of vibration to be able to harvest themselves. And so here is where I put in my 2 cents, absorbing and processing all of this raw material, is that harvest in and of itself it's a very fascinating topic. But the summary of this, and again, this is my interpretation, please don't take it to heart, or take it to your heart and see if it resonates actually, is that harvest is needed at the end of the cycle. At the end of the cycle, those who are here will have to do their best to graduate to 4 density. Those who cannot make it will actually wait for a 3rd density planet for them to incarnate again. But at the end of the cycle, which we already finished essentially, because harvest started in around 2011, some people like to push it to 2012. It was an approximate. I think, like I said, it didn't happen, at the striking of the clock at 12 a.m., on January 1st of 2012 or 2013, whatever it was. It was around that time. Our Gregorian calendar sucks, basically. It was around that time that simply we shifted, and that was, the moment of harvest. Everybody who dies at this point goes through the threshold of light and measures itself, or steps, as the Confederation likes to call it, and measures their vibration and say, well, it looks like I'm ready for 4 density. Let's go, baby. Or they say, I'm not ready. Let's go repeat. Let's do this over again. So this happened, but one key point is the seniority by vibration. This means that those who incarnated here at the end of, let's say, before the harvest, they were here because they had a high possibility of graduating. But we're still carrying a lot of misfits, let's call it that, people who are indifferent to this sort of evolution. So these are being, I hate to use this word, but they're weeding out these. That's exactly what's happening. Actually, this is a phrase. You see, don't blame me for using that word. Jesus used this. Plucking the weeds. As the harvest comes. This is actually where the word harvest comes from. If you didn't know, remember Carla and I would say, it's our Western language, but Carla was Christian, and they use a word that was it was a match for the process, and this is what Jesus called the harvest. And so what's happening? The weeding out is these entities who are no longer capable of being in 3rd density. That because they graduated to 4 density, or because, and positive and negative 4 density, but also because they can remain here on this planet. And this is the beautiful part. All of those, to me, incarnating now, are those who are coming to live the transition to 4 density, meaning that this can only get purer. I'm hesitant to use the word better. It's not going to get better, in the sense that the best moment is now, with all this chaos, you know. Those who watch Game of Thrones will know that celebrated quote from Peter Baelish saying, "Chaos is a ladder, my friend." And that's exactly what this is. Chaos is a ladder for ascension. We are using this chaos of not knowing what's happening for us to process catalyst, not only for ourselves, which seems to be ourselves. It's not really ourselves, it's the whole planet. We're processing catalyst for the whole planet. And I'll get to this at the end of this video, because I think this is important to keep in mind. So what we get is a process in which things start to relax. After the harvest, things start to relax, meaning that we no longer fear many things, and the people who are graduating to 4 density here are also coming to help in the transition. So not only the people who are coming from other planets to be incarnated here, but also dual activated bodies. This is a, you know what, I'm going to make a note because I need to, yes, dual activated. See, I'm curious to know if this explosion of dual activated bodies is due to people graduating here on this planet. Because again, let me compare numbers. 35,000 people in 1981 were dual activated bodies. 500 million now, 500 million of people are dual activated bodies. Right now, actually more. That was 2018, 4 years ago, that Quo said. So, does that actually reflect our reality? I think so. We have a lot of children now being born. We have an explosion in population. And are they the ones being graduated? Possibly. Are those the one coming from other planets? Certainly. I have to see. I have to see if they said specifically that they're coming from another planet, or if they are only, if they're coming from another planet only, or if they're also mixed. I have to check. In any case, the process of harvest is beautiful. It's a huge inspiration for all of us who are in this process of transition, and knowing that this planet is in good hands. Our generations to come know what they're doing, and we only need to trust them. If you don't feel like we can trust the next generation because they use TikTok or something else, whatever it is the case, remember that our parents didn't trust us because we play Nintendo or did whatever, watch TV, or wanted to, I don't know, become a dragon slayer, whatever. We turned out to be okay. And their generation, or their parents, didn't trust them because they were hippies and sort of, you know, revolutionary thinkers and all of this. Our previous generations never trust us, and yet we do our best. Trust me, this new generation is doing their best. All we need to do is give them love, appreciation, give them wisdom at best, or at most. They decide what to do. This is their planet, it's not ours. That's it. Let me put it that way. Anyhow, let's move on to question 29. Don says, is there a clock-like phase, shall I say, associated with the entire major galaxy of many billions of stars, so that as it revolves, it carries all of these stars and planetary systems through transitions from density to density? Is this how it works? Beautiful. Ra says, you are perceptive. You may see a 3-dimensional clock phase or spiral of endlessness, which is planned by the logos for this purpose. So, yes, there is a clock-like phase, Actually, Ra has used this term in the past when talking about harvest, actually. I suppose that's why Don mentioned it this way. But yes, there is a clock-like nature to the evolution of the galaxy itself. The whole universe is spiraling up. If again, the word up doesn't mean a cardinal direction or a specific dimension of space, but rather the up of the Creator. The highest point of up is the infinity of the spiritual gravity that the Creator is pulling us towards it, right? This is the expression of the one Creator in seeming separation, that's us, and then the pull is inward. So it should be an inward spiral, I would say. But Ra says spiral of endlessness. Does that sound familiar with infinity? If it doesn't end, is it infinite? Yes. And the spiral, where does it go? Does it go outwards in space or inward? Actually, it goes all directions, but in our experience, it goes inward. At least in my formation. Okay, so yes, it is three-dimensional rather than 2D. There is, the needles of the clock going in a circle. This goes in a sphere, if you want to see it this way. Spherical in nature. So, question 30. We're getting to the end of this session. Don says, I understand that the Logos did not plan for the heating effect that occurs in our third density transition into fourth. Is this correct? Ra says, this is correct except for the condition of free will, which is of course planned by the Logos, as it itself is a creature of free will. In this climate, an infinity of events or conditions may occur. They cannot be said to be planned by the Logos, but can be said to have been freely allowed. You see, this is where our vocabulary, human vocabulary, and our definition, particularly our Western languages, that includes French, Germanic, Latin, all the sources that we have. French is actually Latin, but Latin, Germanic, may I say even Greek, and so on. Our roots were actually a little bit more. See, if we study language, we see that our roots were more in touch with nature than our, say for example, Spanish came out of Latin, and English came out of Germanic with huge influence of French. Maybe that's why English becomes so confusing. What a mixture. But see, language starts to be a problem here because we use the word plan. The Logos planned this, oh, the divine plan. The divine plan is not, you have already been planned, so you're doomed or saved, whatever that may be. It's not planned, the only plan is to have free will. However, the conditions in which we are going to navigate this, it's almost like, okay, the colors are set, but the painting is not. The painting is a product of free will. The colors are simply the colors. The conditions are, set to be played or placed for the events to be played. So that's basically what Ra is saying here. What was the question? I lost the question. Oh, the heating effect. Yes. The heating effect is just simply a mechanic of the way I see it. I mean, did the Logos plan for evolution? Yes, of course. That's the whole plan of the cosmos, evolution. So it planned for evolution through a specific matrix of archetypes arranged in a specific way, so we can have a certain experience of sense of separation or unity. All of this amalgamation of events, or not events, but conditions. But the free will is what causes this, and the mechanic of the heating effect is simply our rejection to the evolution. Simple as that. It's not so complicated. Sounds complicated, it isn't. Question 31, Don says, it would seem to me the heating effect that takes place on the planet is analogous to a disease in the body and would have as a root cause the same or analogous mental configuration. Is this correct? Ross says this is correct, except that the spiritual configuration as well as mental biases of your peoples has been responsible for these distortions of the body complex of your planetary sphere. I think I can actually, let's read this last question, question 32. Don says, when the third density goes out of activation and into potentiation, that will leave us with a planet that is first, second, and fourth density. At that time, there will be no activated third density vibrations on this planet. Am I correct in assuming that all third density vibrations on this planet now are those vibrations that compose the bodily complexes of entities, such as us, and that is the sum total of third density vibration on this planet at this time? Ross says, this will be the last full query of this working. This instrument has energy left due to transfer, but there is discomfort. We do not wish to deplete this instrument. We may say that this instrument seems in better configuration despite attack and previous workings. To answer your query, this is incorrect, only in that in addition to the mind-body-spirit complexes of third density, there are the artifacts, thought forms, and feelings which these co-creators have produced. This is third density. So why did I want to include this or merge these two questions? I don't know, let me find out. Okay, so the heating effect is an analogous to a disease in the body. And Ross says that this is true, except that the spiritual configuration, as well as mental biases of ourselves, us humans, are the responsibles for the distortions of the body complex of the planet. So in essence, let's say we have an infection, a bacterial infection in our body. We are, oh my god, this is going to sound so bad. We are causing the bacterial infection. Let's put it that way. It's not like we humans are bacteria that are infecting the planet, as some people like to put it. They like to demean themselves into, oh, we're a plague on the planet. Much like Agent Smith in the first and only movie that existed in The Matrix. The one and only. The first movie. The other ones, I don't know who made him. But he talks to Morpheus and says, you know, I figure out that you are a virus on this planet. You move around and you consume and all of that spiel that Mr. Smith gave to Morpheus. No, not like that. We are causing this because of our mental and spiritual biases. We're causing these distortions on the planet, which is not really that we're destroying the planet. The planet is simply saying, all right, there's a lot of heat, let's vent it. If in the process humans die, hey, well, we caused it all together, so it's okay. You know, it's part of our evolution. So that's how it's happening. Now, the reason why I wanted to merge this question with the next one is because Don is saying that he wants to know a little bit about how third density, as it moves into fourth, is going to be left out. And that's why he says that the planet will be first, second, and fourth, not third. We covered that in the last video. I think we covered that in the last video. I don't know. All the sessions are merging, just like these two questions for me. But yeah, this is happening. This is happening as we transition into fourth density, because third density needs to be uninhabitable, so fourth density can learn to be out of sight of third density. And so the question goes into assuming that the third density vibrations of the planet are basically us humans, the bodily complex of the entities such as us, and that is the sum total of third density vibrations. Now, at the beginning or midway through this video, I said that I had another thing to describe how I forgot what I mentioned, but it was something about the mental configuration, that what is third density that we're made of. See, and this is what Ra explains, that third density is not only the physical being. You see, we are like the instruments that create, with our mind and our bodies, we create third density. Why? Check what Ra says. They say that in addition to the mind-body-spirit complex of third density, so the manifested human here, in addition to that, there is the artifacts. That means all the constructions that we have, AI and all of this. Cars, buildings, toys, plastic, styrofoam, microwaves, and so on. Thought forms are, there is a sea. You see, time-space is populated by thought forms. Time-space is the place where our thought forms reside. As a collective environment, as a collective consciousness, we produce these collective thought forms, which are the influences of our planet. That's why we're addicted to buying, to entertainment, to porn, to all types of human devised attractions. Yeah. So our thought forms are simply a collective thing. It's not to say that, you have all these attractions, or you have all these penchants. No, it's simply you're human. You're living as a human, and all of these things are happening. The purity or the purification of these thought forms is really what the seeker, or let me say, another New Age term, the light workers. Oh, I'm a light worker. Well, anybody is a light worker as long as it's processing this into a higher dimension of understanding. Meaning that instead of being stuck with, say, violence, as people like to call it, we kind of process it. So somebody who is a very violent person and somehow grows out of that is easily to be called somebody who has purified the environment of thought forms. That violence, he didn't heal it for himself or herself. That person healed it for the entire planet, believe it or not. Anything that you transcend, you're not transcending it because you're a separate human being, an animal who is individually evolving. You're evolving with everybody, and everybody's evolving with you. So, yeah, we are purifying it. Take what has been given to you, your allowance in this incarnation, and simply work with it. And lastly, they say, and feelings which these co-creators have produced. So, okay, artifacts, thought forms, and the feelings that we have created. Feelings is another department of our experience. You can see that we're very sensitive on this planet. There are reasons for that I won't get into. But we're very sensitive as humans. And yeah, we have produced all of this. This is all part of third density. This needs to go out. This needs to be processed, purified. And we're doing this just now. This is what Ra calls, this is third density. This is why we need the whole transition period of harvested beings who know how to deal with all of this in fourth density and are doing this. They are specialized workers, if you will, that are coming here. You can see this as wanderers, and those graduates of third density into fourth who are coming here to aid the planet are those specialists who have done this already and are purifying it. So when you look at this, metaphysics, New Age vocabulary, or the dialect that is being used, is not so wishy-washy. It's really, and it's not really that complicated. You don't have to, bathe yourself in minerals, and you have to wait for solar flares to go and get your DNA activation and all of that. All you need to do is work upon yourself, and you're doing your light work. See? So again, just bring a little bit more clarity within the vocabulary of the Law of One to all of this, as it is my desire. It is also my desire to move to conclusions, because we are at the end of this video. We are at the end of this session. I will just read the last part because I think it's beautiful. Where Don says in question 33, is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? We might as well ask the same question to Ra or the universe. Is there something that we can do to make ourselves more comfortable or to improve our contact with ourselves? And Ra says, you are conscientious. All is well. We leave you now, my friends, in the glory of the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the infinite creator. Adonai. So, that's my conclusion, okay? I'll see you in session. No, I'm kidding. So, we talked about harvest and what does this mean. Let me just say one conclusion. I think this will sum it up. Forget about harvest. It's a fascinating thing to talk about. Forget about harvest when it comes to working upon yourself. I think I fell into this trap for several months in my process of understanding what this all meant. And the trap meant the assumption that I needed to do something because I wanted to get harvested. And I realized that there is no such thing as a harvest for myself. There is a collective harvest. And yes, there are mind body spirit complexes that are inhabiting for density, but I could never relate to the notion that I needed to me Gabriel needed to be harvested to 4 density, because that meant for me an escape mechanism, a coping mechanism with this reality. And so that's what I mean by forget about harvest in terms of, am I going to make it or not? Work upon yourself, which is really the only thing you can do, the most important thing you can do, indeed. And I think everything else starts to become more clear. Again, it's a fascinating thing to study as, let's say, scientists of metaphysics, to see how the evolution of the planet rolls or unfolds. But in terms of what we do, I don't think it has much more than inspiration to work upon ourselves or with ourselves. And that's it. I mean, just realize that's another thing that paints a different picture in our current era, the era of transition. None of what you see out there, this whole takeover of the world, what is it, New World Order, the World Economic Forum, and so on, all of this, the technocrats and so on, it's the vestiges of a dying system. It will continue to do its thing, but we're not concerned with that anymore. We're concerned with ourselves now. We're concerned with what we can do to improve ourselves. The old 3rd density work that we used to do for, I need to improve the planet, I need to improve society, all of that is 3rd density. If anything external you can do is to give love to people. And when you can give love to people, it's because you haven't given love to yourself in that aspect. So again, this all points out to the self. At least this is my perspective. There will be, of course, a lot of people who are righteous people. They want to go out and change the world. I think they have their part to play. I would rather just sit and watch with more love and wisdom, which I think is the key thing. In any case, that's my just my humble opinion. Thank you so much for enduring this hour with me in the last part of session 63. I have no idea what we have in session 64. Perhaps more harvest. We have wonders, white magic, and so on. It seems mixed. We'll see. Always fascinating. Always a pleasure and an honor to do this for you, my friends. I do it because I just want to share this. I thank you for watching. I love you. I appreciate you. I am glad you're out there because otherwise I wouldn't exist. Take good care. I'll see you in session 64.